In Kansas City, federal authorities have arrested 4 people they say were behind a lucrative scam that mixed money, late-model cars, and religion. Prosecutors say the 4 offered religious, church-going Christians so-called miracle cars, low-mileage cars that could be had for a small fraction of their real value.
How did 2 teenage security guards end up behind bars for over 50 years after making off with over $20 million? We've all seen those late night infomercials making big promises, get rich quick with no money down.
A nicer car, all that stuff will be gone. It's only what you invest in the kingdom that is going to benefit you for eternity. You're going to come up to me and hug my neck and kiss me and say, thank you, thank you, thank you for getting that money out of my pocket.
While some product claims stretch the truth, others turn out to be completely fabricated lies designed to bait unsuspecting consumers. In the late 1990s, 2 security guards from Los Angeles hooked thousands with an enticing pitch. Backed by the faith of a deceased devout Christian millionaire, nearly new luxury cars had become available to nearly anybody for unbelievably low prices, from run-of-the-mill Camrys to S-Class Mercedes-Benz and even a few Bentleys. So how did this all play out? Well, let's find out, because you're watching QuattroCam. My name is Alex, and this is Selling a Dream, the miracle car scam. To understand the origins of this story, we need to look at its 2 protagonists, James R. Nichols and Robert Buddha Gomez. Looking to kickstart their lives as the millionaires they perceived themselves to be, after much thought, they landed on the concept of selling luxury vehicles at extreme discounts by tapping into the upwardly mobile, lower-income dreamers, using faith as their way through the door. Starting out telling tales in their local church, the pair spoke of a mysterious deceased Christian millionaire who wished to bestow high-end vehicles for pennies on the dollar to his fellow believers. Potential buyers only needed to put down a registration fee to secure their vehicles, ranging from $1,000 up to $5,000 for the most prestigious vehicles. So where were all these heavily discounted luxury vehicles actually coming from? That part was left suspiciously vague and convoluted. What potential buyers did know was that Robert Gomez, the adopted son of a now deceased Christian man, was pre-selling some of his late father's fleet of vehicles as the $400 million estate was going through probate. It was his father's dying wish to give back to his fellow Christians as a reward for their good faith. Nichols and Gomez reeled buyers in slowly with these miracle cars. They set the hook. Luxury vehicles, just outside the reach of most, dangled like bait for bargain basement prices. In a society trained to seek status, who wouldn't be tempted by that offer? Just put down a few $1,000 and soon you'll be driving your very own Cadillac, Mercedes, or even Porsche. After initial down payments were pocketed, the scheme simmered along for months with skillful stalling tactics as the network began to grow. Finders were established. People with connections within the Christian community could pocket a finder's fee for signing up their congregation. Influencer marketing before influencers were even a thing. Gwen Baker heard about the miracle cars through her non-denomination charismatic church in Memphis. But she was not just interested in buying one. Baker also recognized the money-making potential in helping to sell them and became a prominent finder, and the sales figures were staggering. Missouri pastor Corrine Conway made over $900,000 worth of finder fees in the year 2000 alone. A professional car finder in Los Angeles bought $120,000 worth of cars in one day, and former NFL players Neil Smith and Ricky Sigler bought a total of $700,000 worth of cars. This network of finders pushed the message of Gomez and Nichols far and wide, and at its peak, just over 4,000 people put down payments on some 7,000 cars between 1997 and 2002. How did 4,000 people believe they would receive, in some cases, a $100,000 car for as little as $5,000? And why were they willing to wait 5 years for it? Well, if it wasn't clear already, Nichols, Gomez and their associates had themselves a very lucrative Ponzi scheme. But before we get into that, if you've been enjoying this video so far, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel? Unlike these cars, it's completely free. Now back to the scam. That deceased millionaire Christian, the man whom Gomez claimed to have adopted him, never existed. The $400 million estate was fictitious. The army of lawyers handling the probate behind red tape and little information was completely false. This was all fugazi.
It's all a fugazi. You know what a fugazi is? Fugazi, it's fake.
It was smoke and mirrors, purposely elaborate to allow for excuse after excuse, legal paperwork that repeatedly delayed vehicle delivery, from the initial promise of a few months to a few years. Those who got cold feet received one of 2 things: reassurance, often from leaders within their community, that all was well. The miracle would arrive.
How many of y'all believe that what you make in a year, you're gonna make in a
or, if that wasn't enough, a refund on their purchase, using the proceeds from other buyers' fees. The classic Ponzi. Most had invested too much to back out. The fear of missing out had them trapped. Even as their delivery dates were pushed further and further away, most kept their faith. Some bought for investment, others for image, but almost all bought out of their belief. As tensions grew, our band of con artists knew they needed to do more than deflect or rely on blind faith. Thus began the process of forging documents. Fake vehicle identification numbers and spec sheets were provided to pacify anybody challenging the vague timelines. The only solid plan was systematically collecting registration fees from as many bedazzled buyers as possible for as long as possible before excuses ran dry. So this cycle of distraction and deception continued. The bubble, however, was about to burst. The network of influential finders pushed their message loud and clear, a message that would find its way to the desk of Higginsville, Missouri Police Chief Cindy Schroer. Hearing about the large number of miracle cars being sold in her town, she got suspicious. Eventually, at the end of the year 2000, she wrote an incident report and sent it to Missouri's Attorney General. The report eventually wound up in the office of Ted Graves, the U.S. Attorney for Missouri's Western District. An investigation was immediately launched, headed by U.S. Postal Inspector Steve Hamilton and IRS fraud expert Gary Marshall. Over the next 2 years, Hamilton and Marshall painstakingly followed the money trail, initially thinking that the finders were actually the ringleaders. The FBI tapped phones, monitoring conversations with Baker and Conway, who continued to sell these cars, even after being warned that the scheme may be illegal. Hamilton and Marshall discovered that Gomez, Nichols, Baker, and Conway had fleeced their customers out of $21.1 million and spent $8.6 million of that on refunds. Authorities discovered their offices occupied only by phones and desks. No cars or staging locks existed. The conmen hadn't even bothered with basic props to help sell their story. It was all smoke and mirrors, propped up solely by distraction and desire, an elaborate facade only made possible by their collective belief in their promises. In the aftermath, Nichols, Gomez, and their conspirators were brought to justice, receiving substantial fines and jail time. Conway pleaded guilty to felony tax evasion. She had not paid taxes on the finder's fees earned in 2000. In return, she agreed to testify against Nichols and Gomez. She was sentenced to 14 months in federal prison in order to pay $4.9 million in restitution. Baker pleaded guilty to 2 counts of interstate fraud before the judge. In return for her testimony against Nichols and Gomez, she was sentenced to 5 years in prison in order to pay $12.5 million in restitution. Gomez and Nichols pleaded not guilty and took their chances with a trial in Kansas City. On June 5, 2003, both men were found guilty on all 46 counts, 23 each of interstate fraud and money laundering. Gomez was sentenced to 21 years and 10 months in federal prison, and Nichols was sentenced to 24 years and 4 months. Nichols drew the stiffer sentence because the judge found that he had perjured himself on 7 occasions during his testimony. Both were also ordered to pay $12.5 million in restitution. Gomez was fined an additional $8.7 million, an amount presumed missing. It was never established who was actually responsible for the scam. Both Nichols and Gomez would appeal this decision, but it was upheld in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Most victims received little to nothing back from legal reparations, often as little as 6%. Hollow victories do not replace life savings and tarnish credit scores. Perhaps the harshest wake-up call was just how easy it was for any of us to be sucked into the illusion of unrealistic rewards. Even the most skeptical mind can override doubt when tantalized by the law of getting something extraordinary for very little effort. It was even brought to life in the book God Wants You to Roll, the 21 million miracle car scam, how 2 teenagers fleeced America's churchgoers, by author John Phillips. I particularly like the review from what appears to be Robert Buddha Gomez himself. He goes on to write, "I am Buddha, Robert Gomez, the creator and master manipulator of the miracle car scam. God Wants You to Roll is not even close to the actual events that took place within the scheme itself. Dates are wrong, the amount of money that was actually laundered and stolen are way off. Some of the characters in the book were very poorly depicted. As a matter of fact, in speaking with some of the individuals that were interviewed for the writing of this fictional version of the miracle car scam, clearly stated themselves that it was poorly written by the author John Phillips III. It's a total waste of money, not even close to the actual events in the scam itself. Don't waste a dime on this crappy book." One person actually found this review helpful, and I can only hope that that one person was the FBI, because that would be quite funny. One thing you can be sure of in these uncertain times is a subscription to this channel is completely free and delivers week after week. So be sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and check out some of our other videos. You won't be disappointed.